Hi, so I'm back with a new video and let's talk about Here Are the Young Men. So if you know me, I guess you would be already expecting this video. I'm a huge Anya Taylor-Joy fan, and when I heard about this movie it went straight into my watch list, like my not most anticipated, but one of those movies that I'm looking forward to. And it's finally here, so obviously I had to do a review of this movie, also because it has like a pretty well-known cast as well as a director, and yeah, it looked interesting, and yeah, I was just really curious about this one, so let's just get into it. So if you don't know what Here Are the Young Men is about, this is a movie based on a book with the same title, a book by an Irish author. And how do I put this without giving too much away? I guess I'll say that this movie is about a group of friends that go down a dark spiral when they witness something horrific. I guess that's how I can put it without telling you much about it. Because the thing is, it's not really about what happens and more about the characters themselves. I looked it up a bit and tried to understand how close this is to the book, because I didn't know this was based on a book before going into the movie, and obviously I haven't read it. So I tried to look up things about the book and try to compare it to the movie. And what I understood is this is mainly about the characters and not about an actual plot. So that tells you a little bit about the movie. As I mentioned, this has a pretty good cast of well-known actors, at least they are well-known to me. The main girl is Anya Taylor-Joy, which I said, but actually the protagonist of the movie is played by Dean Charles Chapman, who I know from 1917, but I think I've seen other things with him. And this also stars Finn Cole, who stars alongside Anya Taylor-Joy on Peaky Blinders. He is also recently in a movie with Margot Robbie, which I haven't seen it yet. I'm waiting for it to come out in the theaters here in Portugal. And it also stars Ferdia Walsh-Pillow. I hope I'm pronouncing his name right. And this is the only actor that I'm not really familiar with, but he's in a movie that came out this year, so, or is going to come out, I'm not really sure. But yeah, so this is the cast. This is also directed, it's the directing debut, if I'm not mistaken, by Ian McKellen, I think that's how you say his name. He's an Irish actor. I've seen some things with him. So yeah, it is a movie with a lot of things that pulled me into it. So yeah. With all that said, let's get into my thoughts. I'm a bit conflicted with this movie because on one hand, I think it has some really interesting themes. There are dark themes, I'm gonna say that, but they are interesting. However, the movie ends up being boring and a little bit confusing. So I think the thought is there, but it wasn't well executed. And from what I understood, I saw a lot of people say that they didn't like the book. It's not a well-written book, from what I've seen. So I guess the movie didn't really have a lot to pull from, but from the people that watch the movie because they like the book, they said the movie is completely different from the book. So I don't know how that works. Maybe they realized they didn't have a lot to pull from the book, and they try to come up with something of their own. I don't know. So I can see the potential. There's interesting things there, but they weren't enough. And there's also a lot of things that I wasn't a big fan of that didn't make me love this movie. There's one big thing that was a big turn off for me, which is that the movie starts out presented as a true story, and it is from a book. So because of that, I believed it was a true story, but then I looked it up and I realized it's not a true story. So I wasn't a big fan of that. And as I said, the dark themes in the movie aren't well explored. They could have like pushed the boundaries and make it a lot more like shocking and hard to watch. There's a ton of things that might be triggered, so just letting you know, like, if you're going to watch this movie, trigger warning for death, mental health issues, psychopathy, sexual assault, drugs. There's a ton of things that could have been more explored and like getting really dark. So I felt like the movie just went on a surface level and they didn't go deep into these issues. And actually this could have been like a really good horror movie, like go really deep into the psychopathy things and yeah, just get a bit darker, because I felt like they didn't do enough to get this story across like in a powerful way. And in a way I compare this to a movie that I don't think a lot of people have seen it, but I compare this to Demons Never Die, which is a movie that I watched because of Robert Chin. And both movies have a really like British type of feel, and that movie Demons Never Die is a lot of partying and teenagers making bad decisions, which is what happens in this movie. However, that other movie is not as good as this one. Like that other movie is pretty bad. This one has some interesting things, while the other movie is not great. Something else that bothered me was that the movie was also pretty repetitive. Like something happens and they go partying, something else happens and they go to a party again, and so on, so on. So it's like little things in between parties, and I wasn't a big fan of that. I get it that these are teenagers, they entered school and they are going to a lot of parties before they like get into the adult life. But yeah, I felt like I needed more. However, the performances are good as you would expect. Like all these actors are pretty good. The cinematography also has some interesting things. Some part of it were a bit confusing, but there's interesting photography and cinematography, like editing. There's something interesting there with some slow motion shots that are overlaid with other things, and yeah, it's an interesting way to show some of the partying and some other things. But again, I needed a bit more from the cinematography. And in the end, I just think the movie has potential. This could be remade and be remade into a horror movie. That would be like so interesting. But as of now, like this version isn't the best. I can see it appealing to some people, but it didn't get quite there for me. And before I end things, I also think this is a bit similar to Promising Young Woman, like in the themes, not in the way it is presented. Promising Young Woman is a a better movie. Obviously, it was nominated for Best Picture, but the themes are like a bit similar, but in the guy's perspective. So yeah, I could see a bit of similarities. Maybe it's just because I watched that movie recently, I don't know, but yeah. So post that, let's get into my scores. As you might expect, not the best score, but overall I give the movie a 3 out of 5. I think there's enough good things to make it worth watching, but I wouldn't necessarily like recommend it right away. So if you like Anya Taylor-Joy, if you like Finn Cole or any of the actors, if you like British movies, I think you would like it. Just be aware of the dark themes, but it's not a movie that I would recommend straight away like to everybody else. Cinematography wise, I give it a 2.5 out of 5. It's nice, but it can improve, so right in the middle. And originality wise, I give it a 3 out of 5. As I said, I think there's interesting themes there. There's some things that I think are original, but they needed to go deeper into these issues. So yeah guys, these are my thoughts on Here Are the Young Men. Let me know in the comments if you've watched this movie, what you thought, why you watched it, if it was just like me because of Anya Taylor-Joy or if it was because of any of the actors. Did you read the book? Let me know if you have read the book and how it is compared to the movie. I would love to know that. And yeah, if you like the video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you're not subscribed yet, and I'll see you in my next video.